All right, let's look at the homework 2.1, problem number 6. All right, so we have a function given here, and we want to find an equation of the tangent line. All right, so let's do that. All right, so we're going to use the definition to find the derivative. So we have f prime of x is equal to limit as delta x approaches 0. Alright, so f of x plus delta x would be 1 over x plus delta x minus 6 minus f of x is 1 over x minus 6 all over delta x. Alright, then we're going to find the common denominator. So delta x approaches 0. So common denominator would be just a product of the denominator. So you have x plus delta x minus 6 times quantity x minus 6. Alright, then we have to multiply the numerator by the same thing. So you have x minus 6 minus x plus delta x minus 6 all over delta x. Alright, then we can cancel a bunch of things here. X minus x, negative 6 minus negative 6. Right? Then you have x here, delta x here, and delta x cancel here. So you get 1 here. Right? So what you get is going to be negative 1. So it's negative 1 on top. Here, delta x approaches 0. So this guy right here approaches 0, which means that we have x minus 6 times x minus 6, which is going to be quantity x minus 6 squared. All right, that's the derivative. All right, so we have a point. Remember that we need a couple of things. So one, we need a point. So I'm going to call it x1 comma y1, and which is given here. So it's a 5 comma negative 1. And the second thing we need is the slope, so m, which can be found by find the derivative, which we did, and then plug in 5 in it. All right, which is going to give you negative 1 over. All right, so you have a 5 minus 6 is negative 1 squared, so it's going to be 1. So it's negative 1. All right, so the equation is, therefore, y minus y1, which is negative 1, so plus 1, is equal to, slope is negative 1, and x minus x1 is 5. All right, I'm going to go ahead and distribute the negative sign to x and the negative 5 so that we get negative x plus 5. All right, since we need to write as y equals form, I need to subtract 1 so that y is by itself. Then you have a negative x plus 4. All right, so let's type it in. So we got negative x plus 4. All right, so let's check the answer. Submit for testing. All right, it came back and looks like we got the equation of the tangent line correctly. All right, so next part is verify your result by using a graphing utility. All right, so I'm going to open up a graphing calculator. All right, now I have a graphing calculator, so I'm going to go to y equals and type in 1 over 1 divided by parentheses x minus 6. All right, and type it in. And then tangent line is negative x plus 4. Right? Then I'm going to hit graph. All right. So it looks like the first two pictures is not going to be it because it looks completely different. It's on the negative side there. All right. So if you compare this with these two, so not the third one, looks like the fourth picture is the correct one. All right. So let's check the answer. I submit for testing. All right. It came back and looks like we got this one correctly. All right. That's it. I hope that this was clear.